Yo, what's up, guys? It's your girl, Randi Rossario Maples, the queen of New Detroit, and I'm here kicking it with my homie, David McCullar, and my new friend, Dr. Cory Yeager, and my new youngest friends here. We're going to be discussing mental health advocacy, mental health awareness, and what does healthy mental health look like to us. Let's get it going. So David here, he actually owns a mental health gym, the first mental health gym here in Michigan. It's over in Farmington Hills. Let's talk about what exactly is mental health and what does that look like to you?
Well, the old adage of mental health is that it's all in your head, but that's wrong. That's not correct. Mental health, whatever's happening in your head, ends up into your body. So we know that the issues are in the tissues of the body. We know that 70 to 90% of doctors' visits are due to stress-related illnesses. So, and we know that majority of us, a mass majority of us, and if you haven't at this point, will experience trauma in your life. And what trauma does is it impacts you mentally, emotionally, physically as well. So when I look at mental health, I'm looking at it not just from the mind. I'm looking at it from the total existence of mind, body, spirit. All that is in one. We've always kind of separated the mind from the body, and we need to bring that, merge that together, and understand that one, your body somatizes issues and emotions. So if you don't express emotions, what happens to those emotions? They become locked into your body. So when I think about mental health, I don't just think about just the mindset of traditional talk therapy as one thing. I'm looking at it from the total standpoint. I want to look at your environment that you grew up in, because that's the number one factor to why you are the way you are at this point. So mental health is just having a level of awareness of self and having the ability to self-correct.
Okay. All right, Dr. Cory. How do you feel about that? Like what is mental health to you and how do you help those that are going through anything in the field that you work in?
Sure. So I think mental health really is about your psychological and emotional well-being. How are you doing emotionally, psychologically? How's your mind feeling? And I heard David talk about use the word trauma. We hear that word all the time, right? Everybody's talking about trauma. So one thing that I think we should be really clear about, especially living in Detroit, it's a chocolate city, that being black or brown, born into this world black or brown, you were born into trauma. You were born with trauma.
Absolutely.
Right? Before you said a word, before you did anything, there was trauma because of what we look like. So being able to discuss that, having people we could talk to about those things is really important. So I think mental health is about that level of wellness that we can seek, or how we can get towards a higher level of wellness, and understanding that there are lots of factors that impact our wellness. Right? Being a man or a woman, that impacts your gender, impacts your wellness. The color of your skin, race impacts that. Your environment impacts all of that. So if we know we're being impacted by all these things every single day, and we know we start to struggle, right? The fact is that we all have struggles. So figuring out ways in which we can support those struggles to alleviate or diminish or pull down or bring down some of that stress is really important. So I think that's just a quick summary of how I see it on a day-to-day.
When I hear the term mental health, I automatically think of the fact that it's like such a blanket statement because there's so many components to mental health. Like you said, how are you raised? And like you said, the fact that we're born into trauma when we're people of color. Like, I feel like trauma is someone embedded in our DNA on some levels. But let's kind of curve this a little bit because I want to talk to the youth about what mental health looks like to you and how can we as adults help you through your, travels of mental health and making sure you have a solid foundation and whatnot. You can go first.
So my name is Hunter. I want to introduce myself. What I see mental health as is it's psychological, it's emotional, and not just born from trauma. You develop trauma as you get older, especially when you have a lot of factors, like you might not have a other parent in your life. You might be raised by one parent. You might have lost a parent. Going to school and having the thoughts in your head that I have to get to college because I have to be better than whatever I'm raised into is a lot of trauma. And it brings a lot of stress, and it really bothers you because at some point stress just breaks you down, because that's what stress really does to you. It's like it just really cracks at you every day, and then you think about it and you think about it and you work hard to try to get past it, but sometimes you just don't have that to get past it. That's why, as a parent or as a figure that's really helping somebody, I feel like just being there and being supportive, because there's a difference between like mental health and like disciplining somebody or and teaching somebody, because you want to learn from both like all times. It's never just like one side of it. You always want to help the person and not crack them down more than where they're already at. So as a parent, I always look for like, you can do better. I see where you're at, but I can help you do better instead of you just have to do better, and always supporting somebody. So that's what I view it as, and I see that's the way that we can really be helped that way.
I like what you said about teaching lessons and parents actually teaching you a lesson opposed to just punishing you. Okay, let's get into that a little bit. Do you feel like a lot of the times parents are punishing out of anger opposed to actually trying to educate you on what you did wrong?
Yes, I feel like sometimes parents take your trauma or the way that you're viewing things as an insult to their parenting.
They do.
And that's not what it is a lot of times. A lot of times it's just how you are thinking or how you're feeling. So sometimes you're not a kid anymore. Sometimes you have to approach somebody as a human being or as a person, because just because you're gonna grow at some point. You're gonna get older. So talking to somebody and approaching them as another person instead of approaching them as a child and trying to discipline them for them voicing their opinion really helps them a lot more, because you could be shut down and now you're thinking about it, but now you're afraid to approach your parent or whoever you feel comfortable talking to, and you're just quiet now, and that again it messes with your mental health because you don't feel like you can talk to anybody else about it. But then when you talk to somebody, then you're able to open up, and then you get that pressure or that weight lifted off, and you're like, I have somebody to express myself to. I have somebody that really, you don't even have to understand, but just to be there so I can express myself, that you can just listen, it really helps. So the parenting, I feel like some parents just take things the way they shouldn't have taken them. Just like helping is what we need, not a debate all the time.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. I definitely think that parents need to approach their kids as if they're humans. My kids are 2, 8, and 12, and that is number one when it comes to me and being their safe space for me to actually be able to help them and talk to them. I can't go into attack mode, and you do have to pay attention to your kids and know how to talk to your kids. Like, I know I don't have to raise my voice and yell at either of my older kids, because if I have a certain tone, they're going to get it together, but I also want to be that place where we can have the conversations and we can, how you feeling today and why you feeling like that, or what you going through, and just, I'm your parent, but I want to be your not necessarily your friend, but I want you to know that I got your back. No matter, even if you make a mistake, I'm here for you and I got you. But I like your response. Thank you for that. What is mental health to you? You could take the mic.
To me, mental health is like how you think about things and how your mind is. And mental health can cause you to like compare yourself or have certain reactions. Like, for example, social media plays a big part into mental health now, because it leads you, like I said, comparing, and you're always thinking, well, you see someone on social media doing this and you want to do it. And then it's also how you react to certain things. Like during school, if you're feeling more stressed that morning, it can affect how you perform. And then your teachers can say, well, this student isn't performing well. And your parents, like Hunter said, how parents get involved. Your parents will then question you and say, why aren't you doing good in school? And it can kind of like lead into you feeling even more down. So I think it really is all about the approach. Instead of like already automatically thinking, like you should take it slower to see what they're really going through. But yeah, that's what I really think.
Can I say something real quick about social media? Yes. I think this is extremely important. Let's be real about social media for a second and recognize that we only put out the positive things that we want to put out in social media. So it's a fake version. It's a facade. It's fake. We don't go on social media and say how bad things are going. We only tell you the good part of our lives on social media. So if I begin to compare myself to others on social media, I'm comparing my whole story, which got a whole lot of negative stuff, to your perfect story. I ain't never gonna live up to that. Yeah. So we have to have recognition and realize, okay, that ain't their whole story. They just giving me a piece of what their real story is. So especially when we start to compare, we shouldn't really be comparing, but if we're gonna compare, we better move with a recognition and realization that ain't their whole story. Behind the scenes, they got stuff going on that's negative too, right? When we compare. So I just wanted to say that.
And even if that is their whole story, that's not your story. And that's absolutely okay. I'm actually on a podcast, and this was a conversation recently on the podcast about influencers and things like that. And one of the other girls on the podcast and I had a conversation about the fact that although influencers might not like it, we influence you guys. We have a say in what you guys are liking, what you guys are listening to, what you guys are dressing like, what you guys think is acceptable to put on social media. My point of view was that I think it's unfortunate that you guys are growing up in a time that's very different than what I grew up in. I grew up in a time where I didn't have to look at people all day and scroll and look at their perfect bodies and their little waists and their big butts and their, perfect boobs and things like. I didn't grow up in that. I'm certain that plays a role and messes with your mind sometimes because you're looking at these people online looking as if they're perfect. Like you said, at that point you are getting just a piece of it and whatnot. Can we talk about how some influencers present themselves? How does that affect you guys? And what are some ways that influencers can do better? I want to talk to you specifically about this because you brought up social media.
Well, I feel like most of the time it's not really influencers who like make me feel a type of way, but I would say that most influencers, like if you specifically like the ones who speak out instead of just like posting about certain things, they're pretty good. They like talk about mental health. So I feel like it's more towards like people who we actually know. Because they will say things on social media like postings like I'll only be with a girl who has this, or I only like boys like this, and it can like that's what really makes you feel a type of way when it's like people who you actually know. But as far as influencers, like you do see them live that perfect life, and it sometimes can be motivation because you want to do that in the future. But like it's like when you see people your age achieving such big things, it makes you wonder like why am I not achieving those type of things.
We talking about obviously about mental health and what's mental health to you. We got to have a nice little connection moment conversation before the cameras got on and everything. But I want you to talk about that on camera in regards to what is mental health to you and how can parents and guardians help through those type of situations.
Personally, I believe that mental health is getting a better understanding of yourself. I grew up knowing like, okay, my dad was always telling me, okay, be confident, do this, do this, do this. But as soon as I hit middle school and as soon as I hit high school, the mental health just shot at me. It's like you had social media and then you walk into high school and you got different type of groups. You got different type of groups that everyone is trying to fit into. And everyone wants to try to fit into the pretty girls, so they try to change their body. They try to wear makeup. Everybody has the cool kids, so you don't want to go to class, you want to sit back and chill. And it really messed with me and my friends' mental health. So once I became a junior, I gained better understanding of myself. And it took me a while to learn that. Once my mother passed away, it was like, okay, you don't have this safe cushion anymore. You have to learn yourself. You have to learn who is here for you. You have to learn that these social media people, this is all fake, because even though they're going through something, they're not going to show you. Just like you can't go to school and let people show what you're going through at home. You have to do that same thing. So you have to battle your mental health to build a foundation for yourself. And that's what I believe it is. I had to build a foundation of who do I want around me, who do I want to be, not what I see out in the world. And social media, growing up, it gave me a lot of insecurities about myself. Mm-hmm. So I was like, okay, maybe I should lose weight to try to fit in with this group, or maybe I should wear more makeup to try to fit in with that group. And through high school, through middle school and high school, it really triggered my mental health into this year. And I'm able to be like, okay, you like this, and you can let these people go because they outgrew your tree. So you can let them go and you can become that better person. And you can grow as a better person, and you can continue doing what you're doing because everyone has their own path. But when you find the understanding of yourself and knowing what's wrong, and you're able to seek help, your path becomes clear, and it's not sluggish with social media and fake people and fake friends and everything that you believed that you want into what you actually find. So once you gain the better understanding of yourself and the help that you really need, and you seek out and get the help, your path becomes clear, and it's like you can see your mental health getting better. Just understanding.
When I grow up, I want to be like, oh yeah. One thing we have to recognize too, the brain is doing something. The brain works all the time, and we don't realize how it works. But there's a portion of the brain called the amygdala, and it's a little small almond-shaped piece in the brain, and it's fully developed at about 8 months of gestation, meaning that if a pregnant woman is 8 months pregnant and you slap your hands in front of her stomach, the baby will be startled, like scared. Why? Because this little portion of the brain that controls fear and nervousness and emotion fully developed. There's a part of the brain that's not fully developed till you're about 30 that says, you don't have to worry about that. You don't have to look at that. That there's going to be a gap in time. So the brain is going to tell you to do certain things. Emotion's going to tell you to scroll there. Oh, I got to be this, I have to be that, because that's how the brain is working. So the one thing that we can do is work to slow things down. Slow things down and think about things in a different way. It may help you make different choices, because the immediate reaction is going to be emotional. It's how the brain works, right? So recognizing that, I think, is an important thing.
So like, your parents are still people too, so they still go through they still go through emotions the same way that you might be going, the same way that you might be like, oh, I'm depressed now. Your parents probably won't show it to you, so they're strong for you, but they're possibly depressed too, or they're really going through something. Because I know in my house that I have both of my parents in my life, and they won't show me or any of my siblings their emotions, because they feel like as individuals that if I show you that I'm weak, you feel like being weak is just a norm. It shouldn't be a norm. Being weak is okay. Being able to open up and express yourself and being open to opinions on that is okay. But being strong enough to work past it, like how they do, or how, because sometimes they'll take you to the side and explain it to you like, I was hurt. I was truly going through something. I was hurting and everything. I might not show it, but I can explain to you that I was some way that I was bothered by it, and I can express to you and tell you that it's okay to express yourself, but just never let it control you. Or especially what is it called one more time?
The amygdala?
The amygdala. Of course, it's a reaction. Everybody has their reaction. I feel like even at the age of 30, you gotta say it's fully developed then. I mean, I don't even think it's fully developed then at 30.
My wife would say mine ain't developed yet. I'm working
No
on
one
it.
even say it's fully developed at 30, because since you got that so fast, it's still there, and it's the strongest thing you probably have in your brain at the time is a reaction and a survival instinct. So everybody that is having that reaction they're still learning how to like figure it all out and control themselves, but everybody's going to have reaction. It's natural. It's the normal thing. But you understanding that everybody is, especially your adults that you look up to, like I did a little performance at my school lip singing Drake. I bet Drake has the exact same thing where he reacts, but then he has to step back and calm himself down as a person and look at it a different way. That he has his own mental, and the things he posts aren't always like the greatest things. So sometimes he shows that my story isn't 100% like millions and all of that. It's I came from something, and I worked hard to get to where I'm at, and that's just something that really stands out to me about certain people, because it's not always sunshine and rainbows.
But I think sometimes we forget that, and like we forget that the adults do go through certain things. But I feel like when you say your parents come and they talk to you, that's like creating a boundary. It's good for mental health, in my opinion, because even our generation, your generation too, we be like, okay, we gotta hold it in. We gotta just let it eat you alive. Cause I watched my mother do that. I watched her every battle that got through with her. She let it eat her, and she never talked about it. And I always wonder why. And that's where boundaries came in also. So it's like you create a boundary for yourself, but that boundary, one of the boundaries of your foundation has to be, it's okay. You got to talk about it because it's okay. Because a lot of stuff that goes with mental health, once you talk about it, it feels like your emotions and your body it eases. And you feel so you feel so tensed up because you eat it, you letting everything eat at your soul. It's not just eating at your body. It's not just eating at your mind. It's not just eating at your heart. It's eating at your soul.
Yeah.
So the moment parents start talking to children and they let you know, okay, it's okay to talk. It's okay to break down your emotions to me. It's okay if I'm going to do the same to you. You don't need to know the adult things that go in my life, but you need to know I'm sad. You need to know that I'm happy. You need to know that, because, I don't know, it's like me and my dad, we got this little thing, because we both got triggers. And both of us in the house together, it never works out. So it's like he lets me know that it's okay to talk, but he also got that I'm about to be bottled up. So it's like when we're messing with each other, okay, Daddy, you triggering me. You gotta let me calm down. But I feel like that's something that adults and kids should always get comfortable with, your triggers. Even if you feel like you can't talk about it, it's messing with your mental health, you need to understand your triggers. Because once you understand your triggers, you're able to work past, you're able to talk about it, but everybody has to know that it's always okay to talk.
I know two quick things that I know we got to keep moving, but there's two things that I'm reminded of, that in life we teach people how to treat us. I'm gonna teach you how to treat me. If you treat me negatively, it's because oftentimes I've let stuff get away. I've let you get away with stuff, and you've now been taught that you can do that with me. So that also means that you all are teaching your parents. You're coaching and teaching your parents all the time. So it's not that they're just doing it on their own. You're teaching them certain things. So recognizing that, I think, is really important.
I think, and I think let that resonate for real and think on that. As a parent, I didn't understand. You know, you jump into parenthood and you just start doing the stuff that your parents did usually. Well, my oldest son is actually my husband's my bonus baby, right? I realized that yelling and fussing does not work well for him. Immediately shuts down. Immediately, I'm sure with most people, who likes being yelled at, right? But he has a physical reaction to being yelled at. He gets nervous, his hands get sweaty. He has anxiety with that. Once I realized that, I don't have to yell at you. Cool. Let's have a conversation. Hey, he might be at his mom's house. I'll text him. Hey, how are you today? I'm good, Bonus. How are you? I'm doing pretty good, Domino. I noticed that you're missing 3 assignments in math. You think you can work on that for me today? He'll say, yeah. Thank you. And then he'll finish that with, thank you for talking to me that way. Thank you for not yelling at me. Now, does he slip up? Absolutely. Most kids do. But he appreciates the way that I speak to him, because I speak to him, like you said, as a human, like being respectful. I think that you guys are all at a certain age. If your parents are open to talking to you and having that conversation, talk to them about that and have that conversation of, you know, you're not trying to overstep that child boundary, but I do want to be able to have open, you know, communication and things like that, because that's very important. It's really important.
Bonus taught you how to treat him.
Absolutely did.
He taught you.
He did.
All right, don't do that.
He
don't
did.
do that.
It was really, it was him teaching me, but also me paying attention to my child.
Yes.
Paying attention to his reaction.
Yes.
I think that so many of us parents are stuck in go mode, and so rightfully so. We're living in times right now that we've never experienced. This pandemic is crazy. Okay, we tired of y'all tired of us. It's just a lot. Okay, but it's just, I had to intentionally take the time to slow down, to pay attention, because at the end of the day, if your kid is not doing that great in school, ultimately some of that falls on you.
Yeah.
So yeah, I want to talk to you though. What's mental health to you?
So for me, I think that mental health is like your overall well-being, like how you feel emotionally, physically, and mentally, and like how it can affect you and change you as a person. So like they were saying in school, and like what you see in your parents. So for my parents, I saw how they tiptoed around the topic of mental health, and how like that has personally affected my whole family and like my relatives as well. So like whenever we bring up the topic of mental health, they're always like, oh, you don't gotta worry about that. It's all in your head. Like it's fake, you know, stop worrying about that. And so I saw how that affected me, my siblings, and like how it affected them and changed them to be like not their worst versions, but like close to that. So like bringing awareness, especially in like cultured, like people from like different cultures, households, because like my parents were born and raised in Mexico, so like they don't believe in mental health at all. I feel like bringing awareness into like cultured households is like one of the most important things to me, because a lot of kids that I've seen, that Hispanic, Asian, Middle Eastern, whatever, they don't know how to deal with their mental health because of how their parents told them about the topic in general. And like, I had to learn for myself, and I had to teach my little sister like how to approach her mental health, because I saw that like she was like also like keeping it in, like as an older sister it hurts. So like
Well, oftentimes parents are, somebody said, I think David said it earlier, parents are really just giving us what they had to give us. So if they haven't been talked to about or engaged mental wellness in a way that they can really be comfortable with it, when the topic comes up, just like any other topic, we get nervous. So when you get nervous about a topic, what do? You shut it down. If I brought up something right now that was very uncomfortable, you would look to shut it down and move on. That's all parents are doing, because they're not comfortable with it. So we find ways in which to engage it. You just said, then I started working with my sister. I find ways to support her, because that's not feeding me the way I want to be fed, right?
Right.
That's good.
Even the response of, parents are doing the best at because I said the same thing. Like, most of our parents are just doing the best they can, what they got.
Yeah.
They don't want to hear that, because they're like, that's not helping me right now.
Yeah.
Like, what's helping me right now?
Yeah.
And right now, what's going to help you is the things that we're discussing in regards to protecting yourself and really understanding your triggers, be it the setting boundaries, having someone to talk to. Maybe that looks like talking to a school counselor regularly, or having that safe space in an auntie or an uncle. We all got a cool auntie or uncle, right? Most of us. Not yet. Oh, I'm about to be your cool auntie, boo. Don't worry. I got you. I'm your cool auntie now. Just call me TT Randy, okay? I'm your cool auntie. But literally, you need that safe space. Be it, if you're playing sports or you're in the band and you're on the team, you need that. So I hope that some way, somehow, you guys are, you are having that safe space, so you can cultivate these type of conversations. How are we advocating for more mental health in our schools and on social media, and how can adults help with that? Because I know you guys can only do so much, but if I call your school advocating and whatnot, they're gonna probably put some fire in some situations, right? How can we help with that?
I've always said I'm a very, very positive person. When I go to school, if it doesn't matter who you are, I'm always going to have a great attitude towards you, because I feel like I have that space where the things that I feel like are weighing heavy on me, I can express myself, and I have a release, and I have an area, but someone else might not have that. So if somebody comes at you the wrong way, sometimes it's not, you got to go back at them the wrong way. Sometimes it's are you okay? Because asking that, I've asked that to a lot of people, and a lot of people stop and they go, no, I'm not. I'm not okay. I'm in a bad mood, and I'm here to talk to you if you need to talk. I'm not going to be someone that's mean to you because you're going through something. It's okay. I understand that there's always something going on that I can't see, because I only see you at school. So there's a lot of things that really play a role in how you react or how you treat certain people. Like, you don't want to be disrespected, but sometimes how somebody comes at you isn't really how they are. It's just how they're feeling at the moment, and being able to speak to them. Like, sometimes the kids at Renaissance are very, they're very, very emotional kids at Renaissance, and it's very female dominated at Renaissance. There's a lot of girls that go to Renaissance. I'm pretty sure the average is like 70 girls, 30% boys. Wow. But just being around them, you see a lot of different people. You see the girls who have the different colored hair, or the girls who just love having all the nicest shoes, or the girls who don't really care about the shoes and just want someone to talk to, or the girls who...
You know all the girls, don't you?
70%,
Nephew know all the girls.
There's just some people who just are... Who don't want all of that. They just want somebody to come up to and just be like, hey, how are you doing today? And they want to hug, and they just want to feel happy or special to somebody, because not everybody provides that to them.
Provide a hug.
Listen, if you come up to me in school, I will give you a hug no matter who you are.
But I'm happy that you supporting your class and your friends with mental health, and making sure their mental health is stable. How can grown-ups, and how y'all doing this mental health in school?
Go ahead,
Yeah, you about to get in trouble.
I I would say a lot of times my dad or like my parents, when I'm stressed with school, they would tell me to go talk to my counselors. But I feel personally like I don't have a relationship with them to the point where I'm comfortable talking about stuff like with mental health related, because every time they see us, it's about grades, graduation requirements, and everything like that. But I don't like they'll have assemblies or little things where they talk about mental health, but it still doesn't give you like make you feel comfortable. And I think it's just because like we never have one-on-one meetings, we always are in a big group. So like maybe if they try to have like one-on-one meetings, like try to squeeze it in, it would be better.
Can we hear this, Queen? Because I don't know if we asked about mental health.
Oh, good call, Dr. Cory. Thank you.
Yeah. What do you? How do you see it? How do you? What if somebody? Yeah. How do you describe it?
When you say mental health, how would you describe that?
Mental health is just like mentally, and then it just affects your whole entire body to me. Because for me, I personally, I have a lot going on, but I don't always show that, because as a person, showing that you're like emotionally, it makes me feel like I'm weak. Because in the household that I'm in, I have to be the strongest one out of everybody, because I have to take care of my sister, my mom, my other sister sometimes. So I have to be the strongest one. And including the fact that my grandma died. So that took a very strong toll on me in school. My grades started slipping and all that. And it was just like, from my mama, she was just like, get your grades done. You have to get better. You can't do that. And it wasn't like, oh yeah, how you're doing? It was never asking me, was I okay? It was always like, your grades are slipping. You can't do this. You can't do that. Because mentally, going outside or going to like go and see the water or something like that, that would help me. That would make anybody feel better. Having somebody to talk to, that would help anybody. Going somewhere, going out with your friends, that make you feel better. But also, to be honest, I don't even have friends. I dropped everybody.
Do you ever feel like you're forgotten? Yeah, that's an important thing to engage in, to understand. That's important. Hey, there it is. That's beautiful. Sometimes that's all it takes right there.
I would like to know, how has the change in communication affected you mentally, emotionally, because of the texting and DMs. Most of our communication is body language.
They don't see a
And
change
you-
though, because they grew up in that. It's a change for us because we
So
didn't
you-
grow up in
Yeah, that's
that.
right.
So you have zero contrast. So even if trying to resolve conflicts is through big blocks of messages, and I tell people, look, if you have an issue with me, an emotional issue, don't text me.
Yeah.
We gonna call, let's come meet, and let's talk, because then I can see you. I can understand what you're going through, and you can understand me, but you miss all of that, So, and it sounds like you don't really have safe spaces to even, like we talked about, like emotion being weakness, and I just find that to be so backwards.
Yeah.
It's so wrong.
Agreed.
Your emotions are not weak. That's an
Yeah.
experience. It's not. We have to stop personalizing it so much. It's just an experience. Like if you got to use the bathroom, you don't say, "I'm not gonna go." But when we feel an emotion, I'm angry. You mad? No, I'm not mad. But clearly your raise
you're
of
mad.
tone
Yeah,
shows
yeah,
that you're
yeah.
mad versus expressing. And I understand maybe not in that moment, but at the same time, you have to. Your homes, where you live, your house, that's one home. But where do we live? Where do we live?
In ourselves.
In our bodies. Yeah. Right?
Okay, so later on this week, we all get to go to David's mental health gym. It's super dope, you guys. It's full of great experiences. David, let's talk about, what we'll be doing this Saturday when we come to Inception.
So we are a mental health gym. You can think about it as like the physical gym, but the physical gym, you typically go to create muscle contractions, right? We kind of tear down the muscle, we use the word tear, where we're the opposite, right? So when we talk about stress, we talk about trauma. What happens when you go through those life events? All of a sudden your shoulders is up to your ears, right? And then your jaw is clenched, and then you can't sleep, and then you have gastrointestinal issues. on and on and on, right? So at the mental health gym, we're not working out, we're working in. So we use a circuit model where we use 3 different technologies to help to relax the body. You're not coming in, you don't have to talk to anybody, it's a safe place for you, and you're supporting your brain and your body using technologies that's fully supportive of your nervous system. Your nervous system is what's in charge of all of this going into fight, flight, freeze response. You may think you're consciously involved with that, but you're not. So because you're not consciously involved in that, we need to look at the body as its own entity. This David, this ain't David, right? Because if I could just totally shut down all of my stress response, don't you think I would do it, right? I would do it. So at Inception, we use the tools that allow you to do it. It gives you the space and the permission. So we're going to be doing magnetic therapy. We're going to do a neurofeedback therapy, which is called brain training. That's how I overcame panic attacks and anxiety. And we're going to do a flotation therapy, AKA sensory deprivation. I would like to call it restriction because people get freaked out about deprivation. But the sensory part is we're overstimulated. Like I couldn't imagine being your age and living through that time frame. You have constant information coming at you on top of stress and trauma, right? So being in an environment like a float tank where there's no light, there's no sound, there's 1,000 pounds of Epsom salt dissolved into a foot of water and you float effortlessly. It's heated to your skin temperature. So that's a sensory reduction. So your body floats up. So now all that mental chatter that you got going on in there, like if I ask the question, how many of you minds are racing? A lot of people, they say, I can't shut my mind down. Why? Because you haven't processed your day-to-day activities. That gives you the moment to begin processing all of that. So you're going to go through those 3 circuits with those 3 services, and we're going to have a conversation afterwards about how you feel.
And you're gonna feel great.
Let's go and you do a field trip.
No, seriously, you guys are gonna feel great afterwards, David. I'm super excited about Saturday. My first experience at Inception was probably about 5 years ago, 5 or 6 years ago, and it's next level beautiful. Like it's super beautiful. So I appreciate you guys. Thank you for this conversation, Dr. Cory, Mr. David, the youth. Thank you so much for joining us here today. Thanks for the Pistons for having us, Chris, all that good stuff. Yay, hey.